Let's see, we need to go just a little. All right. So, hello everyone. Let's see here. We are good. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. So tonight, again, we are fortunate enough to have my partner Amber here to help us go through our flow so I don't get winded while demonstrating postures while trying to talk you through practice, and you have someone beautiful to follow along with. For tonight's practice, we're definitely going to be focusing more on those hip openers. Again, you know how I love opening up the hips. So we'll start out with some pretty traditional flows, sun salutations A and B, and then start to continue on through our practice. Now, as always, I would suggest that you have at least a couple books nearby or some yoga blocks just in case you need them. And for tonight's practice, belt or necktie, anything to kind of help you get a little bit closer to your foot if you need. So, that all being said, we'll take a moment in child's pose to begin before we actually start shifting into our vinyasa practice. So head of the mat. So why don't we all shift into a comfortable child's pose, whether that means having your knees together or knees slightly apart. Let your forehead drop down onto the mat, your forearms as well, being certain that your shoulders and your neck can totally relax. So we'll use this opportunity now to tune in to our breathing. So as the body as a whole sinks into the floor, bring a little more attention into the lower abdomen. Feeling your inhalations expanding within the tummy and rising up into the area of the low back. And then after 2 or 3 breaths, focusing on the breath just in the low back, start to encourage your inhalations to climb up a little bit higher. Feeling that expansion, opening up the backs of your lungs and spreading open the spaces between the ribs. Taking the breath up further still, try to feel as though your inhale rises underneath your shoulder blades, allowing them as well to soften and broaden. Make sure that the back of your neck is relaxed, unclenching your teeth, relaxing the backs of your eyes. Imagine now that you draw your inhale from your hips through your low back, upper back, shoulders, neck, and right up to the crown of your head. Of course, when you exhale, just soften and sink a little more. One last breath cycle here in child's pose, really immersing yourself into the rhythm of your breathing. And then as best you can, for the duration of our flow, try to stick with your breath more so than following my cues. So on your next inhalation, begin to shift forward into a tabletop position, stacking your shoulders atop your wrists. From table, tuck your toes, straighten your legs, lifting your hips into the sky for downward facing dog. Look up between your hands and then walking your way to the top of the mat. Bring your big toes to touch, and with a long inhale, stretch your spine forward, keep the neck long, folding down in your exhalation, drop the head in toward the knees. Rise halfway, pushing through your feet, soften your toes, melt down a little deeper. You can catch your ankles to stretch. Last time. Halfway lifted, deep breath in, melting all the way down, roll the weight forward. Bend your knees, keep your head and your arms heavy, dangling from your spine. Start to round up, 1 vertebra at a time. Arriving at equal standing pose with your arms by your sides, legs alive, pushing the thigh bones back. Crown lifting as your eyes softly gaze into the distance. Surya Namaskar A, traditional sun salutation, first form. Push down through your feet to help propel you upwards. Using an inhale, arms overhead. Lift your gaze toward your thumbs. Folding forward, exhalation, Uttanasana, head to knees. So really stretch out the inhale as you lengthen your heart forward. Bend your knees as you need to plant your palms. Back you go, step or hop. And then from your plank position, you can lower knees, chest, chin, or straight as a board. Cobra or up dog, whatever back bend suits you best. Over your 10 toes to downward facing dog. So right away, drop back into your breathing. You feel the form of your inhale, the shape that it takes within your body. And of course, as best we can, trying to encourage the breath to conform to that yogic breathing pattern. Inhalations ascend, exhalations descend. One more exhale here, pulling the hips back perhaps just a little further. Look up between your hands, and when you inhale, step or hop to the top, lengthen your spine, melting in head to knees. And take it nice and slow, stretch up into the sky, reach your arms overhead, eyes to thumbs, equal standing arms back by your sides. Good, keep it flowing. Inhale, lift ourselves up, stretching high. Exhale, folding at the waist, melt through your spine. Halfway. Go ahead and step back to plank position and then lowering with control. Upward facing or cobra, deep breath in. Rolling over your 10 toes, downward facing dog. Right away, dropping back into the rhythm of your breathing. Okay, be sure that you have that nice symmetry. So balancing the duration of every breath with the one that follows. And trying your best to conform the postures around your breath. So last exhale. And at the conclusion of that breath, forward we go. With an inhale, step or hop to the top, long spine, melting, let the crown fall. Ride the inhalation up into the sky, draw your gaze to thumbs, arms back by your sides. Good. Rise with the breath, inhale. Shoulders sink, fold down, head to knees. Halfway up we go, keep your toes soft. Back to plank position. So finding strength as you reach your shoulders right down through your heels to lower. Body straight as a board. For upward dog, make sure your knees are lifting off of the floor and then over the 10 toes, downward facing dog. As you adjust your stance by bringing your feet just a little bit closer to your hands, also be sure that your feet are approximately the width of your hips. Heels are stretching their way down into the earth as the knees and thighs pull back up into the waist. One more exhale. At the end of that breath, eyes forward. Up we go. Step or hop to the top. Nice long spine once you've arrived. Melt your way in, head to knees. Okay, taking it up into the heavens, lift with your inhale. Equal standing, smiling softly. 2 more cycles. Urdhva Hastasana, lift. Uttanasana, fold. Ardha Uttanasana, halfway, lengthen. Step or hop your way back, Chaturanga Dandasana, 4-limb staff posture, dropping to elbow height. Upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Set the pose and breathe for 5. Smooth, deep breathing. And listen to the sound of your inhale, your exhale, and try to fill the space around you with that resonance. As you conclude your exhalation, eyes forward, forward we go, nice long spine, melt your way in, head to knees, soften the neck. All the way up, lifting into the sky, gaze to thumbs, arms back by your sides. Okay, standing still just for a moment. Check back in. Now we'll transition into Surya Namaskar B. So making sure that your big toe mounds are touching, soles of the feet are nice and close. Bend your knees. Squeeze your thighs together as you sit into fierce posture. Inhale, arms overhead, bring the floating ribs in. Exhale, down you go, head to legs. So stretch yourself forward, lengthen on the inhale. Traveling to downward dog. So moving through your vinyasa, if that means the full flow, or just simply stepping back and lifting your hips up high. Now once we arrive at downward facing dog collectively, we'll use an inhale to lift our right leg straight back into the sky until the standing leg stretches. Exhale, step up. Drop your back heel for warrior 1, lifting the arms straight overhead on your inhalation. Exhale, descend, hands back down to shoulder width, either step straight back to dog or through the flow. And whatever makes you smile the most right now. Switching over left side. So as you inhale next, lifting the left leg high, pull your hips way, way back, and then step. Solid foundation on the exhale, lift your arms overhead, reaching into the sky, gaze high. Exhale now, down we go, hands to mat. Keep your elbows close if you're dropping into chaturanga. And push through the inner margins of your palms, upward dog. Rolling over your 10 toes, step your feet just a little bit closer, and then get steady, smoothing out your breath. So if at any time you notice that your breath is starting to get a little irregular, remember first you can always omit those extra flows. But then whenever you arrive at one of these more restorative postures like dog or child, stretch your exhalations out. And this will help you to bring the breath back into balance. So this will be our last exhale here. And at the end of it, look forward, inhaling, top of the mat you go. Nice long spine. Melt your way down, softening the face. Fierce posture, bend your knees. Squeezing the thighs together, push the feet down as you lift your torso. And then equal standing, arms by your sides. So one cycle, we'll do 2 more. Utkatasana, bend those knees as you sit, inhale, forward fold. Long spine, soft toes, vinyasa, whatever that means for you, straight back or moving with the breath through your full flow. Lifting right leg on the following inhale, step on the exhale. That's a lot of time to set your foundation. Warrior 1, eyes on the horizon or upwards. Exhale, flow. Using the strength of the upper back, so you descend slowly. Find downward dog first. Reach through the heels, and then inhale, left leg. Exhale, step. Back heel at about 60 degrees, so the toes are pointed forward slightly, sink low, and then hands to earth, and back we go. Listening to the resonance of your inhale and exhale. And the exhalations tend to be a little bit louder, at least in the beginning. So challenge yourself to bring a little more awareness, perhaps to the in-breath. And if you're not really hearing yourself breathe, in order to cultivate that quality Ujjayi pranayama, we need to find just a little constriction at the front of the throat. So remember to bring a little pressure, a little tone into the glottis, and by doing so, we get that soft whisper sound. So this is our last exhale. At the end of it, look forward, traveling to the top of the mat, lengthen your spine out, forward fold, head to knees. Bend those knees as you sit into that imaginary chair, Utkatasana, straightening up, arms by your sides. Just 1 more to go. Bend those knees, sit low, and as you inhale, torso rises. Exhale, folding into yourself, draw the knees into the hips. Halfway up, long spine, plant your palms, back you go. Tailbone to heels, heels to the back wall, reach through those legs strongly. Upward facing dog, toes back, heart forward, downward dog. And as you inhale, right leg brushes the sky, step. Virabhadrasana 1, hips settle into the earth, vinyasa. Keep those index finger knuckles down. Last side, left leg reaching. And when you lift into Warrior 1, nice deep breath, there's going to be extra pressure in the low back, hands to earth. Okay, it does tend to make it a little harder to cultivate that full breath, so you just have to work doubly hard whenever you get restricted. Settling into your downward facing dog. Smooth the breath back out. And remember, alternative posture here, child's pose. Just drop your hips down to your heels. Last 3. Last 1. At the end of that exhale, eyes forward, inhale to the top, lengthen your spine out, bow down, head to knees. Bend those knees, hugging them together, push the feet into the earth for fierce posture, straightening up, arms by your sides. Okay, pause in stillness for a moment, check back in. Grabbing a hold of your waist, hop your feet open the width of your hips. With a little micro bend in your knees, folding forward, drop the arms toward the earth, grasping for your ankles or your big toes. By all means, if the hips are tight here, bend the knees a little or a lot in order to bring length into your spine. With your exhale, roll the weight forward and begin to bow as the elbows widen out sideways. So firstly, bring as much awareness down into your feet as possible. Okay, the more you can literally try to feel your feet, the more you're going to be able to draw your breath and your attention down the backs of the legs to create space. Additionally, the more you try to feel your feet, the more intuitively you're going to change the shape of the pose, improving the alignment in order to improve that awareness. So for 3 more breath cycles, send your inhalations right down into the pads of the feet, into the spaces between your toes. And if you feel as though there's room to go a little deeper, for the last 2 breaths out, lift your knees and thighs a little higher. 1 more long exhalation. And then releasing your toes. Fingertips to the mat as you lengthen part way up. Turn your feet out 45 degrees, bend your knees, and sit. So left hand down to the floor with your arm inside the knee. Right hand back behind you. Get nice and tall for a moment. And we're just going to twist it out to the right for 2 breaths. Turn your belly. And then back to center. So shifting the right forearm inside, left fingertips behind you. Get tall first. And then turn the belly. Just 2 exhales. Gentle, organic opening. Release back to center. Take your hands to your heart, sit tall in your squat, and then straighten the knees, folding forward once more to hang from your hips. And we're going to bring a deep, deep bend into the legs, so much so that your belly almost drops completely against your thighs. Draw the arms back behind you, interlace your fingers at the sacrum, and in the inhale, draw your arm bones right up into the sky, lifting them off of the neck. Exhaling, the wrists begin to fall toward the earth over the top of your mat as you breathe right up into the shoulder girdle. You really use the peak of every inhale to spread that sensation out through your shoulders and maybe even further out toward your elbows. You're shaking the head out, a little yes and a little no. Make sure that your cervical spine is relaxed. And then release your arms to the earth. Keep your head heavy, dangling for a brief moment. Awareness back down into your feet. Push them into the floor and begin to round up vertebra by vertebra. Step your feet back together as one, arms by your sides. And now instead of imagining 2 feet, feel that 1 point of pressure pushing through the floor, sending you upwards. Arms overhead, inhale. Folding down, head to knees. Okay, traveling to downward facing dog, lengthen your spine out and then back you go. Step or hop your way directly or through your flow. All right, our first standing sequence, lifting right leg up into the sky. This time let's bend the knee, roll the hip open to stretch the front of the thigh. Step between your hands. Momentary warrior 1, rise with the inhale. Warrior 2, open your wings. Pushing the right leg straight. Take the time to set up triangle. Bring your back foot in about 1 or 2 steps. And then focusing on the right hip. Pull that hip back into the right as you stretch your torso forward. Find your shin, your block, ankle, big toe one day perhaps. As we then turn the eyes upwards toward the left thumb. So breath by breath, the bones of your legs push down into the floor to help you get that energetic sense of lifting, that rebound energy rising up through the fingertips of your left hand. Pull your right hip back just a little further, and as your exhale ends, look at the floor. Bend your right knee, warrior 2 for a moment. So we're gonna have to widen the stance, that 1 or 2 steps with the back foot. And then shifting to side angle posture. Hinging forward, stage 1, place your right elbow on your thigh. Left arm then stretching beside the ears. You extend forward, finding that nice long line of energy from the tips of your fingers on the left hand right down to your outer heel. If you're continuing on further, you can bring your hand outside of the thigh to find your block, or maybe fingertips reaching to earth, but only ever working the variation of the posture that feels most gratifying, while at the same time giving you just a little bit of a challenge. Remember, we only ever want about 2% change every day. Any more than that, and you're really leading to trouble. One more exhale, left body open. Hands down to the floor, drop your left knee. Okay, so a kneeling twist, take the right hand to the right thigh. With an inhale, lift your left arm way up into the sky, turn your belly to the right, pressing your elbow against the knee, and then right hand against left at prayer position. Draw your heart closer to your thumbs, and then focusing on your belly, really try to breathe into the low back. So this is certainly enough, okay, especially if the low back is quite restricted. But if you feel like you want to generate a little bit more of that internal fire, you're always welcome to tuck the toes of the back foot and lift the knee off of the mat in a rising lunge, just simply making the posture a little more dynamic. So we only have about 2 more exhales. Okay, the tummy turns you, so the low back is opening, and then hands return to the floor, framing your right foot. Tuck the toes of your left foot, that'll be your back foot. Keep that knee on the floor as we inhale, pull your hips back, right leg straightens, melting into those hamstrings. So we want to try to turn the right hip back just a little bit so that both sides of the waist are square with the wall behind us. This means you're actually going to kind of turn your torso over the right leg just a skosh. In twisting that torso, push through the big toe mound of your right foot. Turn the inner thigh toward the earth. And one more exhale, let you melt in just a little bit further. Rock forward into a lunge, stepping back to downward dog, or go through your flow if it makes you smile. Check back in. Body, breath, and mind, where are you right now? Left side. Lifting the left leg, bend the knee, rolling open, stretch through the front of the thigh, and then step. Warrior 1, savor the inhale. Warrior 2, opening out sideways. Now taking our time for triangle posture. Press the left leg straight, bring the back foot in as you need. Essentially, the distance between your feet should be approximately the distance between mid-forearm here. So pulling your left hip back into the left, stretch your torso forward with the inhale, and then on the exhale, find your shin, ankle, or block. So the whole posterior or back body is moving its way into the floor. So both of the shoulder blades move into the hips. The sacrum at the back of the hips tucks and anchors into your right heel. When the back body descends, the front body, it lifts. So take the lower belly to your sternum, take your sternum to your crown. And for one more exhale, the right body rolls open. Look at the earth at the end of that breath. Rise up, warrior 2. So as you lunge into your left knee, widen your stance that one step. Reassess the back leg. Your right foot is solidly planted for side angle, left elbow lightly connecting with the thigh for stage 1. Now with that right arm stretching beside the ear, we want the shoulder blade to both sink and widen away from the spine. So your tricep is going to turn toward your face slightly to help facilitate this movement. So although you sink perhaps a little deeper into your lunge on the left side, your right hip should almost feel as though it's lifting toward the ceiling to help you keep the pinky toe and the outer heel connected. One more exhale, right body opening. Hands to the mat, drop your right knee, framing the foot. We're moving to our twist, left hand to left thigh. Inhale, stretch the belly up. Exhale, wedge that right elbow outside of the knee. Pressing your palms together, draw the heart toward the thumbs, And then eyes gazing upwards toward the ceiling over the left shoulder as you breathe intently through your low back. Okay, the belly moves away from the thigh, pushing the inhalations toward your kidneys. As before, if you chose to take that warmer variation, you can tuck the toes of your right foot and lift the knee off of the mat in that rising lunge for our last 3 breath cycles. So the exhale will complete the twist, finalizing that rotation. Inhale, come back. Hands frame the foot, tuck your toes on the right side. Inhale, hips back as your left leg straightens for half monkey, melting toward the left shin. So it's the left hip now that's pulling back, and the big toe mound of the left foot pushing forward, helping us to keep the leg as neutral as possible. Visualize your hamstring muscles, your calf muscles for that matter, if you're feeling the stretch that far down the leg. This will be our last exhalation. But instead of flowing, we're going to shift into our lunge first, lifting the right knee off of the floor. Walk your hands around to the right side until your feet are parallel. Just swing around to face the okay. So for this particular sequence, you just stay where you are. We're going to swing around so you've got a better view as you need. So flip around so you face the So with wide-legged forward fold, you're going to have your hands set shoulder width directly beneath your shoulders on the floor. Your second toes should be parallel with one another, so you're not turning the feet out, in which way we would actually isolate some of the hamstrings more than the others. By having those feet aligned parallel, we'll be able to hit those 3 muscles a bit more evenly. So stretch your heart out, take the longest inhale you can, and then bend the elbows and begin to melt down. Thoughtful that you're connecting through the palms of your hands evenly. If you're not doing this, your elbows are going to start splaying out to the sides and widening, which makes it a lot harder to loosen and relax the neck. If on the other hand, you can keep those index finger knuckles down and the elbows over the wrists, your shoulder blades will more easily sink into your hips. Last exhalation. And then lifting halfway so that your spine is parallel to the earth. Now it's important in the next posture that we keep both feet connected with the floor. So we'll start to bend into the right knee as we walk our hands right, sinking inside of the thighs slightly. Okay, with your eyes on the floor and your spine parallel to the mat beneath you, push consciously through the outer edge of your left foot so you get that gratifying stretch through the inner thigh and the inner hamstring muscle on your left leg. Okay, listen to your right knee. There shouldn't be any discomfort or pressure here. If you're feeling any of this, just lift your hips quite a bit higher, and you can always put blocks beneath your hands. One more exhale. And then shifting back through center, start to walk all the way up to the left side as left knee bends. So the spine still parallel with the floor. Your heart is approximately at the same level as your hips. With the eyes gazing calmly into the earth, focus on your breath, pouring down that right leg. Pinky toe still connected for 3. Your left foot is planting down strongly. 2. And 1, coming back to center. So this time we'll grab a hold of the big toes, but if that's a little bit too much for you today, you're welcome to grab the ankles instead. Now once we've made this connection, before we go anywhere further, push down your big toe mounds. Lengthen your spine with an inhale, keep the big toe mounds pushing. Exhale, start to fold, and whatever you're looking at right now, turn your inner thighs in that direction. Big toe mounds pushing earth. Inner thighs turning toward the center line of the body. Breathe down the inseams of your legs for 2 more exhales, leading with your heart. And release, hands beneath shoulders. Lengthening your spine halfway up with the inhale. Swing round to face the top of your mat, stepping back to your vinyasa or downward facing dog directly. All right, take a couple breaths in downward facing dog, check back in. And then we're going to take it to our backs. So looking forward between the hands, bend your knees, light with the hips. Inhale, step or hop to sit. Exhale, roll down onto your spine, bring your knees in and give yourself a hug. So a little bit of core cultivation. So we're going to begin with Garudasana or eagle crunches. Now just to be clear with these eagle crunches, shoulder resistance and hip resistance are going to be a factor allowing you to get comfortably situated in the posture. So if you are going to find yourself unable to cross the thighs comfortably in eagle, then you can just simply keep your knees connected and your ankles squeezing into the center line as your shin bones hover parallel to the earth. Okay, alternatively, for the arms, if you're having difficulty twisting the arms in eagle gesture, then just place the fingertips at the base of the skull and frame the face with your forearms. So, either framing the face and lifting the shins parallel to earth, or right thigh crossing over top of left for eagle legs, right elbow twisting beneath left for eagle gesture. So keep your shin bones so that they hover parallel to the earth beneath you. As you inhale, soften your jaw, your neck, slide the shoulders down. Exhale, lift your heart off of the floor. You don't have to get terribly far. Lay back down on your inhalation, bone by bone. And then likewise, exhale, bone by bone, lift. So slowly, with the pacing of your breath, every inhalation cascading down, every exhalation, the back of the heart lifts you. You want to keep the jaw soft. And the eyes, if they calmly focus on the creases of your elbows, this will make it easier for you to keep the mind a little less reactive. Only 2 more. Last one, lengthen as you fill, hug in as you empty, and then uncross everything, reach around your shins, and give yourself a gentle squeeze. So for these eagle crunches, we're isolating the rectus abdominis. These are the most superficial abdominal muscles. Now we're going to do, of course, the opposite side now. So crossing left thigh over top or legs side by side, shins parallel to earth. Left elbow underneath for eagle gesture. So pausing for a moment, try to stretch your fingertips over your crown and your toes to the front of your mat. Nice deep breath, lengthen. And then as you exhale, rise. Elbows toward knees. They never need to touch. Lengthen out as you fill. Exhale, rise. So staying with the pace of your breath, draw the shoulder blades away from the ears the entire time. And this, in fact, will help you to work a little bit deeper. But if you want to get deeper still, hugging the inner thighs together gently will help you to really tap into that deep core strength. Last 3. Last 2, and there is your final 1. Undo everything, reach around the shins, hug, and feel how quickly the belly softens with the movement of your breath. Okay, so feet dropping down onto the floor, knees bent. Open your feet out wider than your hips. Now with your arms open to the sides, as if in Shavasana, drop both of your legs to the right, so your left knee hits your right heel. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, off to the left. Right knee hits left heel. One more time. Inhale, connect to center. As the knees fall right, maybe feeling a little release on the right hip. Inhale, neutral. Exhale, left. Back up to center we go. Bring the 2 knees in toward your heart. Reach out and give yourself a little squeeze. Okay, the feet can return to the floor as we pause for a moment. We're just going to do one more core cultivation, and that'll be our traditional leg lifting. So just to be super clear, because I can't see you all and call you out when your low backs are lifting off of the floor, do not let your low back lift off of the floor. So we can bend our knees and we can also lessen the degree to which we lower our legs. Okay, if you let your low back arch off of the floor during this transition, you're not only compromising your low back, but you're not actually engaging the muscles to get stronger either. So better if you only work with 12 inches or 24 perhaps, as long as you're keeping the spine anchored. So arms by the sides of the body with the palms down and the thumbs just underneath your hamstrings will be a good supportive option. Okay, if you have no difficulty keeping the low back connected with the floor when we leg lift, then you're welcome to bring the fingertips up to the base of the skull. We are going to flip the breath, so we'll be working more with a Pilates type breath. That means we're going to inhale to lower and exhale to lift. So bend your knees in toward your chest, lift your legs up into the sky, and find a good connection through your lumbar spine, your low back. Drop the shoulders into the earth, and as you soften your neck, focus your eyes on the ceiling above you. We'll pause here as we inhale. Exhaling, push your belly button down into the earth beneath you. And then nice and slow, with an inhale, begin lowering your legs until you feel that place of difficulty. Exhale, piking up, press your belly button down. Inhale, when you reach your legs, try to straighten them a little more. Try to reach through the toes. Exhale, navel to spine. Good inhalation, reach long. Focus on your low back. Exhale, press the abdomen to the earth. That's 3, 6 more. Inhale, reaching. No grimacing, no teeth clenching. Exhale, rise. Your breath. Long inhale, long exhale. Keep your eyes very, very still. If you allow your eyes to dart around the room, your mind is going to react more quickly, and it will make everything that much harder. Last 2. Last 1. Inhale, right out to your edge. Exhale, press the belly to earth, legs to sky. Bend your knees, reach around, hug. And then a nice passive supine stretch, bound angle. Drop your feet to the floor, let your knees fall open. Turn your palms to face the ceiling, and then flush the front of your hips and your belly with your breath. You really feel those inhalations opening and spreading out towards the limits of your knees. Now to be kind and gentle on those knees, we'll slide our hands underneath the thighs and use the strength of the arms to close our legs up like a book. Bring the knees in toward your chest, give yourself a hug. Breath into the low back. And we'll vinyasa. So before you rock back in order to roll forward, remember that we're only rocking back to our shoulders. Please don't rock back in your neck. Just catch the hamstrings or the shins, kick back, inhaling, rolling forward, step over your feet. Either go through your full flow or just lift those hips up into the sky. Now, traditionally, whenever we do a twisting posture, we always twist to the right. So that means we have to start pigeon posture on the opposite side tonight. So we're going to be lifting the left leg into the sky, bending the knee as it rolls open. With an exhale, sweep that knee forward behind your left wrist, and then slowly start to wiggle your right leg back. So as always, a block or a couple of books underneath the hip will create more space behind the knee if your knee is sensitive in this position. If pigeon is not an authentic option for you, then by all means, lay down on your back and practice thread the needle instead. So that's already a bit of chatting that I've done. I did want you to stay upright, and I do for these first 2 breaths, and that pretty much rounds out that much. So we're gonna now exhale forward and drop to the forearms. So only coming down as far as is comfortable for you to get into that intelligent edge, that elastic discomfort that we can tolerate, that we can work with our breathing. Your ribs should be slightly inside that left knee. And every breath, expanding, contracting within the hip. Now at the end of this exhalation, let your head really fall, heavy as can be, Take your hands beneath your shoulders and push the arms straight to round your spine up to tall. Now we're going to transition to revolving head to knee pose. So fall into your left hip. Okay, pull your left heel in close to the groin and turn your right toes to point toward the ceiling above you. Perfect. So we're going to be bringing the right elbow down to the right thigh. And then with an inhale, sweeping the left arm straight up into the sky. Turn that arm beside your ear, and we find ourselves in our first stage. Now, as long as you can keep your eyes on the ceiling underneath the elbow, you're welcome to explore dropping your right arm to the earth, or one day, reaching out for the extended foot. But if your left arm is getting in the way, or if you're looking over the arm toward the ceiling, then you're in the pose too deeply. Okay, one of the big keys of this posture is to narrow the profile of the upper body. So we're rolling back through the left as we breathe into that stretch running down the left body. 2 more exhalations, spreading the bones of your right foot forward. Draw your eyes to the earth, and with an inhale, left arm pulls you up to center. Grab your left hip and swing round to face the back of your mat. So you're now at about a 90-degree angle. So we have the left foot on the floor here in what's considered head to knee pose position. So this is going to be the modification for those of us who have any kind of fragile knees, any history of injury within the knees, surgeries, anything of this sort. If the knees are healthy and allow, try to lift your left ankle up, cross it over top of the right thigh, and place the ankle bone of the left leg on top of the right, half lotus. And once you bring yourself up into half lotus position, the right arm reaches around the back, catch it with your left hand and pull it as far around as possible. So one day you're aiming to grab a hold of the thigh like Amber has here, but if you can't reach a hold of the thigh, don't worry, just grab for your shirt or your waistband. Slide the left arm straight along your forward leg, get as tall as you can with an inhale, and now turn your belly to the right and gaze over your right shoulder. So one of the best aspects of this particular posture is we have to really focus on our tummy. If we're not, your low back is not going to feel very supported, and the twist will not come comfortably. So tone the tummy like you have a corset hugging in slightly. And as you feel that firming of the belly, the low back will really obtain all the benefit of the posture. Last exhalation, this will be your deepest twist. And then with your inhale, return, facing the back of the mat, straighten your left leg out before you. Cross your shins, roll over your feet, going through a vinyasa or stepping straight back. So one leg, king of pigeons on the right side. Lift your right leg up, bend your knee. Exhale, sweep it up behind your wrist. Okay, wiggling the left leg back as you walk your hands in slightly. We'll stay upright for about 3 breath cycles. So you can let your hips swing a little bit from left to right, just assessing the restriction that may be there. You draw your heart up a little bit higher as you soften the face once more, and then folding forward, come down onto your forearms or stacked fists as you settle into a comfortable resistance. And the right hip in time is moving its way back and right. But we always want the back of the hips to remain nice and even. So as much as the right hip reaches back, so does the left leg. All right, bring your hands back beneath your shoulders, but keep your head heavy. And rounding up with an inhale, drop the weight into your right hip. And once you fall into the right hip, pull the heel into the groin, point your left toes to the sky. So once more, sitting up, revolve, head to knee pose. So we have the thigh bone certainly wider than 90 degrees. Left elbow to left thigh as we reach right arm into the sky. Exhaling, turn the bicep toward the ear, eyes settling on the ceiling. Stay put, or bringing your left elbow to the earth, or eventually grasping for the left foot. So there may certainly be a stretch through the inner thigh or inner hamstring of your left leg. But more prominent, more likely, side body opening. And this muscle is very flat, very sheer. So as that sensation gets more intense, be sure that you are complementing it with a deep breath. Last 3, feeling the bones of the left foot radiate away. You're looking to the floor. Inhale, right arm pulls you up. Grab your right hip, turn it to face the back of the mat. So we find ourselves first in head to knee pose, which means our hips and our left leg are about a 90-degree angle. From here, if your right knee allows you to, lift the foot up, cross it over top of the thigh, resting the ankle bone somewhere about mid-quadricep. Left arm wrapping around behind for the waistband of the thigh. Right arm stretches long, but keep your torso as straight and as neutral as possible. Exhale, begin to twist. So the belly is turning you. All the awareness you can on the sides of the tummy, hugging in to stabilize you. The inner wall of the belly pushing in and up to lift you. And then left belly back, right belly forward. Final exhalation, deepest twist, and releasing. Stretch the right leg forward. If everything went right, you should be facing the top of your mat again. Vinyasa. All right, we're going to transition to our backs for supine hip opening sequence. So taking the weight into the palms of your hands, step or lightly hop your way to the top of the mat to sit, and then roll down onto your spine. Bring the 2 knees in for a little hug first. And then we'll stretch the left leg out long upon the floor as we reach the right leg directly overhead. So you're welcome to grab a hold of your big toe with your index and middle finger if you're capable of doing so with your head and your shoulders on the floor. Alternatively, go ahead and grab your belt, looping your foot. And then once you've done so, be sure that you're holding both sides of the strap with your right hand only, as the left hand rests upon the left thigh. So all we need is a tiny little bend in the right elbow to elicit some sensation from here. Gently guiding right ankle in line with right shoulder. But for tonight, let's bring a little more attention into that lifted leg. Feel the sole of that foot pressing into the sky, and in fact, as you look at it, it should look as if the foot is standing on the ceiling, so there's a tiny bit of a point. Now as that right foot pushes into the heavens, plug your thigh bone back into the earth. Feel that right hip sinking deeper and deeper for the last 2 exhales. Straighten the right arm once more. Okay, make sure you've got enough slack on your belt. With an exhale, begin to open your right leg out to the right side until you feel your hips starting to rock a little. When that left hip starts lifting off the floor, try to go no further. Use your left hand and push yourself back into the mat. You're looking over your left shoulder at your own yoga mat as you breathe to the big toe of your right foot. Last exhale, and as that exhale ends, look to the ceiling. Inhale, bring your leg all the way up to center. Bend your knee and step outside of your left thigh. Okay, placing your left hand on your knee. Exhale, begin to twist. Push that knee over to the left side. Turn your gaze to the right and breathe into your low back. We're going to try to make a nice seamless transition into thread the needle. Finish off the pose with an exhale. Bring your hips back to center. Keeping the right foot outside of your left leg, simply bend the left knee in. So your right ankle is over top of your left thigh. Your right arm reaches in between the legs so as to interlace your fingers around your left hamstrings. Now, keeping both of your feet flexed to protect your knees, start to gently pull left knee toward left shoulder. Your head should be on the floor, your jaw should be soft. And if your hips are a little restricted, as you start to pull in, you may notice that your hips are trying to lift off of the floor. So just soften them. Sink them back down into the mat to whatever extent you're capable. For 3 more breaths, visualize the right hip. Picture it expanding and shrinking. Inhale gets bigger, exhale a little smaller. So last out breath. Slowly drop your left foot to the floor. Undo the right leg, stand that foot upon the mat, and then both knees in, hug. Switching sides. So stretching our left leg up into the sky, right leg upon the earth, grabbing your big toe or your belt. So the left hand holds both sides of the strap, right hand rests on the hip. Walk the hand as far down toward the foot as possible, and then just a tiny bend in your elbow is all you need to find some of that lengthening through the hamstring muscles, or maybe even the calf muscles. Just as we did before, push the left foot into the sky as you plug the thigh bone down into the earth. It's almost as if you were bringing your knee and your thigh muscles back into the hip socket to help you sink. 2 more quality breathings. Now, straightening the arm. Make sure you have enough slack on your belt. With an exhale, open out to the left side. Your right hip determines how far you can go. Keeping the right hip fixed in place, look over your right shoulder at the edge of your mat. Spreading the inhalation through the inner hamstring, the inner calf. Head to center first. Inhale, lift your leg. Exhale, bend your knee, step outside of the right thigh. So right hand grabs the left knee. Left arm stretching out at shoulder height. Go ahead and exhale into your twist, gently guiding the right knee toward the earth beside you. So keep your face relaxed. And as you gaze to one point out in the distance, try your best to bring all the awareness back inside. Thread the needle. Bringing your hips back to center. The left ankle is still outside of the knee, and as you bend your right leg in, that ankle and thigh should be perfectly aligned. Your left elbow reaching between the legs, right arm around the outside, interlace, and then start to pull it in. Right knee toward right shoulder. You notice anytime tension starts to creep up in the area of your face, your jaw, your sinuses, your eyes, your ears. And when we're holding tension anywhere in our sense organs, we're holding tension elsewhere in the body. The exact opposite is true. Relax your face. Watch everything else soften a little bit. Two more exhalations. Remember sinking the hips as you guide your way in. And release. So right foot down first. Drop your left foot beside it. And then bring the 2 knees in, reach around your shins and hug. So when rocking, remember, to the shoulders, not the neck. Go ahead and grab your hamstrings or your shins. Inhale back, exhale up, over your feet, step back into your vinyasa. All right, so we have one more seated sequence. So looking forward between your hands, go ahead and step or lightly hop your way to sit. And once you've landed, stretching both legs out long before you, Bend your left knee and place the heel against the inseam of your right thigh for Janu Shirshasana, head to knee pose. Send the arms overhead with a deep breath. Hinging forward, find your belt, your foot, or your shin. Now re-lengthen your spine for one more inhale. Stretch the heart out. Exhale, drop your eyes to your right shin and let the back of your heart lead you into this posture. Okay, if we just allow our head to fall, we round excessively, and all this does is stretch the upper back. If, on the other hand, we focus on the heart leading us into the posture, this will tend to elongate the spine, which helps us to stretch the hips more. Last exhalation. Sweeping the arms overhead as you rise, drop your arms by your sides. So having your belt nearby, we're going to be setting up crane posture. So with a little bend in the right leg, create some space. Now reach underneath, catch your left foot, pull the heel right up into the groins, pointing the foot. So you're not sitting on it, but it's as close into the hips as you can possibly get. Now grabbing a hold of either your ankle, your belt, or your foot, rock back into your sitting bones and lift your right heel off of the earth, pausing for a moment. So with the shin approximately parallel to the floor, this is a good starting point where we can focus on lengthening the spine. Okay, as long as the spine remains long, you're welcome to explore lifting the right leg up into the sky as the knee straightens bit by bit, or maybe one day bending the elbows and beginning to draw that straightened leg in a bit closer. Now we're only here for 3. Relax your face as you gaze to your toes. 2. Lifting the floor of the hips and the floor of the heart. 1 more exhale. Straighten your arms. Step the foot outside of your left knee. Okay, you're going to have to wiggle your left foot outside slightly so that your right hip can more neatly sit upon the floor. But if this is challenging, remember our staple modification for this posture is to extend the left leg long, which will help us to widen out our base. So right hand behind you. Left elbow hugs the knee as you get tall. And with your exhale, begin to twist your belly as your eyes alight on some point over the horizon. Relax your face. And remember that tummy breathing is good enough, but sending the breath into the back will be that much better. Exaggerate the expansion of your inhale through your low back, the backs of the lungs, and the spaces beneath your shoulder blades. One more exhalation. And release back to center. Let your right knee drop open so your ankle is resting on the thigh. Now we have to assess the resistance in the hip here. So if you're finding that your right knee is really lifted off of your left ankle, then simply push the heel down and tuck it under your left knee. Wiggle your left foot forward. Try to get your 2 shin bones as parallel with the top of the mat as possible. If the hips are open enough, of course, you can remain in fire log posture, but be hyper thoughtful of that right knee. Any pressure or discomfort on your right knee is a one-way ticket out of the pose. Come back into the more simple cross-legged seat form. Hands out before you, shoulder width. Get tall for a moment, and then with your exhale, begin melting down, walking your hands away from your hips. And the eyes rest upon the earth as the back of your heart falls. Every single breath you take, filling out those areas of resistance. Last exhale. Walking your hands back in on the inhalation. Carefully stretch your legs straight out in front of you and do a little windshield wiper action with your feet side to side. Okay, you're welcome to stay put because of course we're going to come back to sit for the other side, or moving through your second to last vinyasa. Cross your shins, roll over your feet, and back you go. You can step or hop, lowering from plank position. Inhaling cobra or upward dog, tuck the tail under. Exhale, downward facing dog. Go ahead and return to seated with a step or a light hop. Once your two legs extend, this time we will bend the right knee in and drop it open to the side. Head to knee pose. Pushing through your hips, inhale the arms into the sky. Exhale, find your foot, belt, shin. Re-lengthen your spine, and then let yourself settle as you drop your gaze toward the earth. So listen to your breath. Visualize its form, its dimension. And then just ever so gently try to push that left foot a little further away from you. As you pull that left hip and that left thigh back toward the wall behind. Last exhalation. And from your hips, rise up, arms overhead. Dropping the arms by your sides. Give your left knee a modest bend. Reaching underneath, point the right foot and pull the heel in close to the groin. Now, catching a hold of your shin, ankle, or foot, lift the heel off of the floor and pause with your shin bone just at about knee height. So your eyes rest upon the big toe of your left foot. The spine straightens, lifting out of the low back, and then, and only then, explore lifting the leg bit by bit, hyper mindful of how the low back draws in and up, keeping us tall. So for those of us that are fairly comfortable in this posture, we've got the leg fully extended, we've got the elbows bending, recall that within a lot of these neutral forward folds, we want to turn the inner thigh towards center. So a little twist toward the midline for our last two exhales. And straighten the arms with an inhale, bend your knees, step it outside of the right thigh. Wiggle the right foot outside of the hip line so you can sit both sides of the pelvis upon the earth. Right arm hooks, left hand behind. And remember, straightening the right leg here can help you to broaden your foundation. So lift the crown of the head up into the sky as the eyes rest on the horizon. Exhale, turning left through the belly. We don't want to be leaning into the back hand. If you do find that that hand is like a kickstand keeping you from falling over, you may need to explore that other variation I spoke about. What's happening is the tension in the hips are forcing your spine back, which we need to try and avoid. Instead, keeping a neutral and tall spine will be much safer as we rotate. We'll call this our last exhale. And then coming back to center. So dropping the left knee open with the ankle resting upon the thigh. Okay, best to have the foot slightly off of the leg here so you can keep a little bit of that flexion which protects the knee. But if on the other hand you feel falling backwards or there's a lot of space, just drop down, push the right shin forward, try to get both of your legs parallel to the top edge of your mat. Hands out before you. Lift your heart first, and then start to walk your hands out as you melt into your forward fold. Eyes softly focusing onto the floor or just into the backs of your eyelids. As you breathe all the way down into that left hip. But of course, this could depend on where you feel most restricted. Last exhalation. Now start to walk your hands back in. Carefully undo your legs, stretch them straight out before you. Now a little windshield wiper action with the feet side to side. One last asana, bound angle. Bend your knees in toward your heart and drop them open wide to the sides, bringing the soles of the feet together. So you can interlace your fingers around your feet, you can thread your fingers into the webbing of your toes, but regardless of your hand position, Remember, as we pause here at neutral, we want to feel back body shifting forward toward the heels as the arm bones pull back to the wall behind us. Exhale, hinge forward, reaching your nose beyond your toes. The heels gently pressing to help you stretch your knees outwards. The breath doing its thing, expanding from the hip sockets to the knees, from the knees to the toes. Final exhalation, rounded spine at the end of it, and then up we go, vertebra by vertebra. Close your knees like a book, reach around the shins, give yourself a hug. Last vinyasa. Rolling over the feet if you choose. Step back to lower, elbows close. Upward facing dog or cobra, inhale. Downward facing dog, exhale. Oh, looking up between your hands. Go ahead and step or lightly hop your way to sit. Rolling down onto your spine, hug the knees in close. A little rocking side to side, a gentle assessment of your low back. And then we'll open out into our final Shavasana, corpse posture. So extending your legs out long, open your feet to the edges of your mat so they are certainly wider than your hips. Turn the palms of your hands into an upward facing position. And then walk your shoulder blades down a little bit further away from your ears so the back of the neck feels spacious. A little tuck of the chin in to lengthen your cervical spine. Unclench your teeth. Let your jaw soften. At the bridge of your nose, the sinuses open and relax. The backs of your eyes softly sinking into the earth. As you encounter sensation, that feeling, whatever it may be, would fall easily into three categories. Okay, the mind would define the sensation as being pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, if given the opportunity. And then after that assessment, the mind will then choose to make a story. That story becomes an epic, and we find ourselves drifting off in one direction or another, until, of course, the next distraction pulls us off in another way. Every time we run into these feelings within the body, there's this pause, this moment where we can catch ourselves before we get caught up in the stories of our mind. And it's in that moment where we pass judgment, where we decide if what we're feeling is good, bad, or just something insignificant. So observe this process as it occurs. First, you feel something. And then at that point where you try to decide what that something is, try to stop. Try instead of calling it good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant, just to feel that thing with more of your awareness. Understand it as much as you can, but without creating a label. And by doing this, you can circumvent a lot of the distractions that arise. But also, you're challenging yourself to become more connected, more objectively thoughtful of your experience. In this way, every feeling you encounter, every sensation, do your best to feel it completely, but leave behind the opinion and the label. Smile at yourself and just experience whatever it is, whatever is there for you tonight. Breath after breath, reconnect. Return. dispersing a little more awareness back into your body bit by bit. Wiggling your fingers and wiggling your toes to bring a little more life down into the arms and legs. From there then, as you feel reconnected, start to draw your legs together, your arms overhead, and with a nice long inhale, stretch from one end to the other, and then soften. Bending your knees in towards your chest, give yourself a little hug. Rolling off on one side, start to press your way up into a comfortable seated posture. I'll go ahead and take the palms of the hands together at heart center, allowing the chin to drop forward slightly. Gazing back behind your closed eyes, find within yourself the feeling that you would associate with gratitude or thankfulness. And then once you've found that sensation, that feeling, offer it first to yourself, feeling grateful for your practice today. And then sending that gratitude outwards to all of your fellow students, wherever they may be, feeling grateful for their support, for that connection. As always, I'm honored that you would share your practices with me.